What's going on, everyone? It's LJ. And what do my least favorite Kiss member and most favorite Kiss record have in common? Stick around and find out.
This is SCTV Channel 109.
What's going on, everyone? And this video is a response to vinyl community member SMF Captain Howdy, and that's John's 1,300 subscriber contest. Congratulations, brother. Tickled pink to be one of them, and many more to you. Now, John posed a very, very cool question, and there's been many different spins on this question over the years. And it is, show me albums with songs that you skip. Now, we all know part of the magic of collecting and listening to vinyl, or even cassettes for that matter, for me personally, is that it's difficult to skip a track. The CD age, and certainly the digital age, made it much easier to kind of hone in on one song and really miss those choice deep cuts, those platinum cuts from deep within an album that aren't necessarily hits or aren't the most rated or highly rated, and it really stripped and took away the ability to listen to and dig into an album. So when it comes to skipping over a track when listening to a record, or even a cassette for that matter, it ramps up the difficulty a little bit, and you're a little more tolerant and a little more willing to listen to and get yourself acclimated to a different song, or really spend time with it and get to know it. That said, there are certainly still songs on albums that I love tremendously that I just can't get used to. I can't accept. I've not learned to love, and to this day I will get up, lift a needle, and skip. Playing no favorites and pulling no punches, let's just go right ahead and start with Kiss. Kiss Alive is by far and away one of my absolute favorite Kiss records, second only to the debut in Creatures of the Night. I love and pull Alive off the shelf on a regular basis. However, 100,000 Years is stretched out beyond comprehension. Absolutely terrible. 100,000 Years comes off Kiss's first record, and it's a phenomenal track. But when you add in over 8 minutes of useless drum soloing by Peter Criss, banter from Paul, random licks towards the end from Ace and Paul, it is just absolutely unnecessary. Now, it's also one of my biggest pet peeves with live albums. A drum solo on a live album, I understand the intention is to bring home the concert experience, but come on. Stretching things out for over 8 minutes would easily have given you the opportunity to add 2 additional tracks. And Kiss had 3 studio albums to pull material from at that point. Kiss has always played with 100,000 Years, live in concert, and stretched it out, as is evident on this Hotter Than Hell tour bootleg from 1974. 100,000 Years shows up here as well. However, Peter's drum solo is only a couple extra minutes. It's not a big deal. Stretching it out to near 12 minutes is absolutely unnecessary, and unfortunately, it makes it the one track I continually skip when listening to Alive. Now, again, pulling no punches and playing no favorites, let's turn our attention to the long-awaited studio album from Ace Frehley, Anomaly. I love Anomaly, I love Ace Frehley. That much is obvious from my videos, and if you've followed me for any amount of time, you know that. However, it's not a perfect album. Now, coming off the back of opening tracks like Genghis Khan, Fox on the Run, Foxy and Free, this album just has it set up to party. Classic Ace. And then we get into the number that just changes the whole flow and tone of the album, and that is called Change the World. Change the World has weird tuning, weird phrasing, it's slow, it's boring, it's redundant, it's repetitive. It is just a horrible, horrible song, and it is one I immediately skip. I can't say I've ever met anybody that loves that song, but I can't say I've really ever asked anyone either, so feel free to use the comments below and tell me if I've completely lost my mind. Now, turning our attention to some classic thrash, here is Death Angels Act 3. An absolutely phenomenal release from 1990. Nothing against it whatsoever. Now, we all know that funk metal kind of had its 15 minutes of fame right around 1990. And the track that closes side 1, Discontinued, is no exception. And it was Death Angel taking their earlier flirtation with adding funky elements really to just this absolute huge height, which just does not play out well. And you have people just slapping bass like a misbehaving monkey in this song, and it just kills the whole vibe of that whole first side. As the track goes through, you've got your classic thrashy moments, and then funk metal. It does not work. It's a track I skip. Again, with full transparency in mind and playing no favorites, let's take a look at Ozzie Osborne's absolute classic solo debut, Blizzard of Oz. Blizzard of Oz released back-to-back with Diary of a Madman, and to this day I'll maintain that Diary of a Madman is the better of the two albums. However, what's the bad track? What do you skip on Blizzard of Oz? LJ, have you lost your heavy metal mind? No, I've not. What I've done is, since this was released, I've tried to wrap my head desperately around D, right? No. Goodbye to Romance. Now, when you open the album with this killer track, I don't know, and then you go from there into Crazy Train. Who doesn't know Crazy Train? Justin Bieber fans know Crazy Train. And then you go into Goodbye to Romance. And yes, we'll just bolt D onto that. We may as well, because it's right there. No disrespect to Randy Rhoads. It just kills the entire vibe of side one. And then from there, we go into Suicide Solution, which, it doesn't really pick the pace of those first two songs back up, but it returns that sinister vibe. So where, how, and why did this Goodbye to Romance ballad, although it's a good song, get into the middle of that side of music? Poor sequencing and a song that I skip. Wrapping things up with album number 5 is the 1976 release from AC/DC, High Voltage. Now, it's become a customary thing to say that an AC/DC album sounds like an AC/DC album. A Motorhead album sounds like a Motorhead album. These things are true now, but they weren't necessarily true then. Now, in the Bon Scott era of the band, from which High Voltage comes from, as well as albums like Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap and Highway to Hell, there actually was quite a bit of a different turn in AC/DC sound here and there, and this album is no exception. So what track could I possibly be talking about here? It is the Jack. Now, the Jack for me completely changes the entire flow of the album, and there's a couple different songs like that here, but when you're coming off songs like It's a Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll singer, and then you get into the Jack, and you've got AC/DC flirting with the blues, which AC/DC did frequently, and I'm not a big fan of that particular AC/DC sound or that genre in general, so of course it doesn't work for me. Now, at the time, when I first heard this in the early to mid-'80s, it didn't work for me then, and it doesn't work for me now. Again, just a redundant chorus that just plods on, nothing really interesting or exciting there. I know it's a fan favorite, and it probably led to a lot of girls getting teased. She's got the Jack, 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 Jack. For me personally, it just never did anything for me, and it was after Brian Johnson joined the band around the Back in Black era that every AC/DC album began to sound like every other AC/DC album. But here in the LJ Music Room, the Jack gets skipped. And that's it for this video. I hope you all dug it. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have one. Which songs do you skip, and why am I out of my mind for skipping the ones that I showed you? Take care, everyone. See you in the next video. Later.